Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we get a brief review of the brand new set of Arrtx Oros markers, the 66 Pastel set. And if you have followed Arrtx markers in the past, you probably know they've had a couple pastel sets in the past. They had a 40 set and a 24 set. This is a combination of those two sets plus a clear and a black marker. Let's take a look here. We've got this nice kind of hardboard box. It arrived in beautiful condition. You can find these on Amazon, and the thing I like about this, it's got a nice carry strap, so it's really easy to take along with you. But what I like the most about this is that you can flip the cover over and actually have it like that, and it will keep all your markers organized in the order that you want them in. I put them in the order of my swatch card, but you could actually put them together in color family order. That might make a lot more sense to you, but I just did it the same as my swatch card. There is a plastic grate inside there. There's actually 3 plastic grates that hold all these markers separated and in order. So you could take that apart and use those grates for something else. In the past, their hardboard boxes like this have had a cardboard insert, which is fine for holding them apart, except it does dent after a while, and those the little kind of interlocking cardboard pieces get kind of bent, and it can be kind of hard to get the markers back in, but you won't have that problem with this plastic. I like this better than the bags that they have sold some of the other Arrtx Oros sets in, mainly because it's easier to shelf, it's easier to store. You can still carry it just as well, but I prefer this personally because I like to have my markers kind of facing me like that when I work. I can still keep them relatively flat so both ends stay inked, and it's just easy to see everything I have. Now this is in the arrangement, like I mentioned before, of the swatch card here. So they do provide you with a swatch card, and it's probably going to be kind of hard to see. My camera tends to blow out really pastel colors like that. And also on the swatch cards that Arrtx provides, I've always noticed that they show the markers a little bit lighter than they will probably show up on your regular Bristol cardstock or marker paper. So these boxes are actually divided. So what I recommend is you color in the swatch well, and then I would let it dry and go over with the second layer, so you'll get a more typical, what is this going to show up on a regular paper or a regular cardstock. Now, I also recommend you swatch them because you'll see that not all the colors are accurate matches. This one is probably the most off, just to show you an example. See how dark this color chip is and how light that swatch is? So it's just a good idea to swatch it. It's a great idea to swatch it on the marker paper you usually use. I use all different kinds, so I'm happy just to do it on the paper here and just go from there. So in addition to the colors from the 24 set and the 40 set, you also have a clear and a black. And I'm just going to show you on this clear marker here, you get the chisel nib, and you can kind of see the shape of that. And you also get the brush nib, and these brush nibs are, and I wouldn't do this, I'm doing this so that you can see what it's like, but I wouldn't pull these out unless you're ready to change the nib or you have frayed it down and you need to reverse it. But these are the reversible nibs, just like Ohuhu uses. So if you do damage it, just turn the nib around and put it back in the opposite way, and you've got a fresh new nib. Or if you somehow kill it beyond repair, maybe you have a little toddler, gets hold of your marker and just kind of like smashes it on the table or whatever, you could get the Ohuhu replacement nibs and use them in here. These markers use the same bodies as the Alp markers. They're also similar bodies to the Altenew markers, but the nibs on these brushes are the dual tip fiber nib like Ohuhu and like a lot of the other less expensive markers have. They're not the neoprene or foam rubber nibs that Copic and Blick Studio and Prismacolor use. So just to kind of give you an idea of why these are less expensive compared to those brands. But you have your colors on the ends. There is no color indication on the barrels themselves, so I would recommend you keep one end capped up as you're using it, so you don't, especially if you have a bunch of markers going and uncapped at once, you'll know what is what. But overall, I think the quality of these is really good, and I've reviewed them extensively, both the Oros and the Alp versions, and I will link those down below if you want to have a little more information about what the quality of this range of markers is like. These, I find, this version here, this box of markers, this was much juicier than the previous pastel set of markers I got from them right out of the box, and I didn't get any splattering when I uncapped them, so that was really good. I did have some splattering when I got the Ohuhu pastels and I uncapped them, and I feel like in general the Ohuhus are just so juicy they tend to spatter. These felt perfectly juicy, no spatter, not dry at all, which is which is good for pastels because pastels do tend to go drier or feel drier right out of the gate just because of the higher alcohol content. So I think they must have a little bit, maybe a little bit extra glycerin or something in them to help the lubrication, help them feel kind of juicier. But let's look at something I colored with them. I thought it'd be fun to, I'm going to zoom in a bit. I thought it would be fun to do a piece of artwork that I just used every color. And this is from the Altenew marker coloring book, the Exotic Blooms. This is really fun. They're like this, the Altenew images stamped out for you and on marker paper. So they're kind of fun to just play around with. But I thought I would use every color in the box, and look how good they look together. I didn't use the black on this obviously, but I think those colors look really well together. You can see as far as a range of values what you get. You get the really, really pale pinks all the way to a more saturated green and blue. So you do get like a mid to like really light value range here. You're not going to be getting the grade and muted tones in this set though, so if you needed skin tones, the Arrtx actually has a skin tone set, and I don't believe there's any duplications between the skin tone set and this, and I don't think there's any duplications between their, like, you can get their 80 set and their 90 set, and then the skin tones and the pastels, and I don't think you'll have duplicated colors except for black in the clear blender, which is really nice because then you can try one box of markers, see if you like it, and then add another box as your budget allows. And I just think it's a nice way to do it. These markers, they do not sell refills for the markers, but or replacement nibs, but they are a generic kind of size of chisel and brush nibs, so you can get their replacements. You can get the brush nibs from like Arrtx, and you can get, the chisel nibs from Arrtx and the brush nibs from Ohuhu, and they will fit those. As far as refill inks, you'd have to go for refill inks from another brand like Copic, or the new ones from Jerry's Artorama or Ohuhu, or some other, or you can mix your own if you have alcohol inks on hand. Comparing these to the Ohuhu pastel markers, the Ohuhu has 2 sets of 48, so a total of 96 pastel colors available in their range. The Ohuhus offer more muted and grayed down pastels, so if you prefer a less saturated pastel, they would probably be a better pick. I personally found a cleaner pastel more useful, so I prefer the Arrtx for the pastel range itself, but that's a personal preference. Neither is higher quality than the other. It's just comes down to what you like and what's your preference as far as a pastel. I like to use my pastel markers for taking my assorted markers and then blending out to a lighter color. So if you have some basic markers, let's say you have a box of 48 assorted markers from any brand, and you are struggling blending out to those lighter colors because you can't really blend out a bright color with a colorless blender and have a seamless blend. The pastels will help you bridge the gap between the clear blender and the mid-tone or dark color that you have. So that's where it comes in to be really handy. Now I actually found that using the 40 set of the pastel markers was very advantageous when I did Inktober a couple of years ago. This is one of the ones I did with their 40 set, and I used a black marker that wasn't from their set, but I used a black marker to do a box around it. So it's really nice to have those black markers to do your backgrounds. And it's nice to have the clear markers for erasing mistakes and for highlighting and just for blending things out further if you want to. This is another one I did with the pastel markers, just so you can kind of see what you get. And these have been in a sketchbook for 2 years, so obviously they haven't faded. They have been closed in a book. Obviously any alcohol-based marker is going to fade in sunlight, so I don't recommend that you do a beautiful artwork and you hang it on your wall. I would scan it and hang that on your wall if you want to. Hang your reproduction on the wall, because alcohol markers are going to fade. The lighter the color, the quicker it's going to fade. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you're working in a sketchbook, it's not a problem. You're going to close it up. But if you are going to hang it up on the wall, just expect some fading. But I did want to show you those 2 artworks just so you can get kind of an idea of their blending and their color range. So what I wanted to also do today was just do a quick little demo and just kind of show you how to blend with these, and also show you another tip I like, which is using colored pencil over these. So what I did with Inktober that year, I took a bag and I put the 40 set of pastel markers. I think I used the bag that the old Arrtx pastel set came in, and then I put in a black marker and a clear marker, and I think I put like maybe a couple grays, and then I put some fine liners and some color pencils, like a set of 36 color pencils or 24 color pencils. So I would have my pastels to do the majority of my work, and then I could go over with colored pencils. So let's do a green. I'm gonna do 59, pale green for my darkest green. I'm going to do fresh bamboo for my medium. And this is why you want to swatch them out, because it's really hard to tell what's darker and what's lighter if you're just looking at those caps. And then I think I'll just grab, let's see, what one looks the most like those? Maybe the pale green light, 167. All right, so what I'm going to do here, if I'm not sure how things are going to blend on a certain paper, I would take my lightest color and I would just kind of color it all in, and that's going to prime the paper. You can also do this with a clear blender if you want to blend out to like white or clear. Now I'll be careful, I won't go right out to the edge because sometimes with a juicy marker it can overflow it a little bit. Now I'm going to take my darkest color, which is 68. So by all means, organize these in a way that they're, you know, you have your blending families together, but I just wanted to go with the swatch card because I'm just going to stick the swatch card in there and keep them. Now I'm going in my mid-tone and I'm overlapping my darkest tone and kind of bringing it into the light. And then I'm going to go back in with my light tone and just kind of finish blending that color out and smoothing out the color and making sure I go to the edge. And that is a nice way to get a really easy blend with your markers. Now let's do some paints. I'm going to put these back in the order that they were in so I don't get confused. Now let's do a pink. We can do 18, which is our darkest pink. We can do 196, which is a medium. And again, see, those two look very similar in value, so you just have to be aware. You can even put like little labels on your markers, like color swatch and stick it to your marker. That's a great idea if you don't want to fuss with a card here. Let's see, so that 196 is a light pink. Let's do, I wonder if I could go, that's kind of a big jump. It's kind of a big jump to go from like there to there. Can you see that? Like to go from there to there. It's kind of a big jump. I feel like I want something in between. I'm going to do Peony 416. And here, this even looks kind of purple. So that would be my biggest con about these, is that the marker caps are not very accurate. So you definitely want to swatch, or maybe even take a label and swatch it. Oh, that's my medium. I need to start with my lightest color. All right, let's start with the lightest color. Let's color an entire petal in with our lightest color here. Let's take our darkest color and go in the darker areas. Then let's take our medium color and blend them together. Going over the darkest color and blending it into the lighter one, and then I'm going to go back over the lighter one and blend it out further. Now you might look at that and be like, I wish I had that, I wish my dark was a little bit darker. And at this point, something that's really fun to do is to grab your colored pencils. I've got my, I'm just going to use my Arrtx ones because I'll keep them the same brand, why not? And I could say, okay, I want this to be a little bit darker. Maybe I'll do this petal here because that's already dried. And I didn't get a very good blend on that one, so I think I'll just go in with that, go into that color. And let me take like a nice kind of fuchsia color. I want to have some darker shadows, so I'm going to go in with that fuchsia color and color right on over that. Now I could blend that out with one of these markers that I've already used. Like I could go in, with that pink and blend it out. Or I can go in with my clear blender, which is really handy if you want to smooth out some color pencil on top of a marker area. I can go in, I can add some shading. I'm just doing this quickly just to give you the idea. This isn't like, you'd want to take a little more time than this, but I just want to give you an idea. I can go in with that clear blender and spread that out without affecting any of my other colors. And see, it just gives you a little bit nicer of a look. You can also go in and highlight and just scribble your marker on scrap paper to clean off any leftover wax. I would recommend that you have if you only have one clear blender marker, I probably wouldn't use it for this, but if you have an extra, it's great for using with your colored pencils. If you only have one though, I probably would keep it just for your markers. And you can go in with your lighter colors. You can add some highlights in there. And really have fun with it. I mean, there's so many ways to mix your supplies. But if you're starting off with a clear, or not a clear, but a light color, like your pastel markers, then you can go up, you can go darker with regular colored pencils, blend with your clear blender. You could highlight with your lighter colored pencils. It's just kind of a nice place to start, and a nice base product. And I like this range. I prefer a more clean color, so I prefer the color range in the Arrtx to the Ohuhu pastel range, because if I want to gray something down, I can go over it with a gray personally. But if you'd rather have those pre-mixed grays and the pre-mixed desaturated muted tones, then by all means get the thing that's going to work best for you. That's I got something out of order here. That's all right. Get the product that's going to work best for you. There's seriously a lid for any pot. These days you can find exactly what you want. Something else that's really neat about the clear marker is that you can use it as an eraser. Let's see, like if I wanted to clean up my swatch here, I could color with a chisel edge right up to the edge of the swatch and kind of erase that bleedy marker, which is really handy. And again, if your clear marker gets stained, it's not going to hurt anything. But if you think you have marker on there, just kind of scribble it on scrap paper, and that's going to clean it up. But yeah, I really like this. I love the case that it comes in. I love that it's storage. It's also handy for using it. I like this much better than the sets that are sold in the bags. The 24 set that's in that weird wallet, they fall out of that wallet, and that was really annoying. And the sets had the plastic grid, like what's in the box, but inside a bag. I just found that they were either, if they were tight, they were hard to get out, or if it was loose, then they would tip over. It was just kind of awkward, and I didn't like it. I prefer the boxes, but again, you got some choices, so I will link the different versions I can find down below. This set is selling for $59.99, but there was a 20% off coupon at the time of filming. I don't know if it will still be available when this video goes up, but they often run specials on new products, and there's deals all the time. So if you know it's something you want, you can always just keep checking back until there's a sale, and then snag it then. But I mean, that's a little under $1 marker. Which I guess isn't bad, especially if you compare it to Copic, but it just depends. I find pastel markers are my workhorse, and I think this is a nice set. I like this color family, but obviously get what's going to be most useful to you in your artwork, and only you know that. I can just say I do like these markers, and I will also link down the other reviews I have to the other sets. But yeah. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this review. And until next time, happy crafting. Bye!